Yes. I don't know. Oh, it sounds beautiful. If you sounded any better, I would just cancel the stream and then make... If you sounded any better, Adam, I would just cancel the stream and then give and say there's nothing left on the internet to do. Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show we'll have a talk about Linux projects such as a distribution, desktop environment, application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics, anything that is Linux tech and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, and this is the best panel on all the worldwide interwebs. How is everybody?
Excellent.
Great. Doing good.
So Scrub Ghost says, "Morning all. Good morning." Anybody here watch the Truman Show back in was it '97 that came out? it says good morning, and if I don't see you, good after evening, good
Mm,
afternoon, good evening, and good night. Anyway, I thought
yep.
that was fun. So be sure to do the straw poll if you haven't done so. Go do the straw poll so that we can have something to chat about during the straw poll. So it makes for better conversation. On the docket for today, it's an open mic night, so anything that is Linux tech, open source related is on the table for discussion. We'll do a straw poll, but first, what have you been doing in Linux and tech? Adam, you said you're going to think about it, but I'm just going to roll with it anyway and just see what happens. See if you sink or swim, buddy.
Yeah. Been tinkering with Hyperland. That's fun.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's right,
Remember me and
Hyperland.
tacos. So yeah, been tinkering with that. That's fun.
Now, is that the Wayland based
Yeah.
tiling
Or the
window tiling
tiling
manager?
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you like that?
I enjoy it quite a bit. I've been getting comfy with it, and that really helps once you get comfortable. Familiar with it. I enjoy it. It's smooth, cool animations, lots of customization to be had. Keeps my brain going.
Now, what would you say? Like, so I played with some tiling window managers, and some have different like default preferences. So
Mm-hmm.
there's actually a plugin for Plasma to make it a tiling window manager. Like, just I don't know if you've played with that at all.
Right.
And so it makes like the left pane like full top to bottom, and then anything you add goes into the right, and then you can like kind of swap things over just with some quick key combinations. And I thought that was pretty cool, but it didn't give me the flexibility to like do it in quadrants because with the monitor that I was using, I wanted to actually divide it up in like in because it's a
Right.
4K monitor. So I
So
couldn't.
Hyperland, as far as I know, has two modes.
Okay.
They have a master mode and a dwindle mode when it comes to that. And so the dwindle mode is what you kind of expect out of like an auto tiler, like Awesome or something like that. So like you have a window open, you open another one, it splits in half. You open another one, that one splits in half. That kind of like mode, sort of.
Okay.
Um, and the master mode is where you specify like the first window takes up half the screen and the others just open on that side. So you have that master window that's always the same size, right?
Got it.
So those are the two schemes that I'm aware of. There might be like some more like Fibonacci style ones or something, but those are the two that I'm aware of.
Yeah, it was fun to play with, but I just couldn't get it to quite work the way I wanted it to work, so I just kind of like gave up on that. But you're saying Hyperland is pretty flexible then, and as to how it opens up windows and
There's a lot of configuration. They actually have like a nice ecosystem of like, I wouldn't say plugins. They're kind of separate apps, but for things like the lock screen and idle timers, the way they configure monitors, like there's a bunch of pieces to it. There's like a wallpaper engine, and there are third party things that also allow for this. So being that it's just a straight up window manager, like you would kind of supply other parts like Waybar for your kind of status bar, taskbar type thing. And I use Rofi for like a app launcher and search tool and all that. So it kind of requires you to assemble the components into a workable machine. But thankfully, there are people out there who have amazing setups and they put their stuff on GitHub, and you can just take their stuff and kind of see what theirs look like and inspiration and look at their dot files and kind of figure out how they configured things and the whole open source thing, the good part of it. Like
right.
being able to share code and kind of pass things around.
Do you feel like the playing with tiling window managers is kind of fun because it's more akin to the less polished like early days of Linux? Like what made it fun is just the tinkering because it wasn't perfect. You want to like tweak it and whatnot. Would you say it's more like that because it's more like clay that you can mold into being your own as opposed to being a product?
Yes and no. So there are advantages to the amount of customization and like tinkering you can do to it, right? But at the same time, there's nothing stopping people from shipping just a complete package setup for it, right? You could set up. There are people who have sort of, I guess you could say, install scripts that install like all the tools for you and set it all up, and they clone their dot files and like at the end of the script, you end up with a whole setup, right? You end up with like a fully functional, customized setup, and kind of like a NeoVim distribution or something where like they already did all the work for you and you just get to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So you could just run that and not have to, do it all yourself. And if you're the type of person to do it from scratch, cool. I totally get that. I'm definitely in line with that. But I also think it's valuable to start with a setup, get comfortable with like just how the thing works and how, if you like it or not. And then you can either go and make your own setup or tweak the one you downloaded or however, right? And so I don't think it's not like the complete product like you find in like a GNOME or Plasma or something like that by default, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But people have made it into a very usable and livable space. And I think it's amazing. It works well on NVIDIA these days, which is awesome because that was not always the case. And I don't know, I've been enjoying it quite a bit. It actually is super comfy, and I've gotten used to using tiling window managers on my work machine. I have a MacBook Pro for work, and I use Aerospace for a tiling window manager on there. And I was like, I need this at home. I need a tiler at home. And so, yeah, I went out looking, and I found a guy on GitHub who had a really cool setup. I was like, you know what? I'm going to hit up this guy's install script, see what it's like. And it's awesome. I enjoy it quite a bit. Smooth. The animations are cool. The effects are cool. Like, it's crazy what people have done with it.
Yeah, see, and I think that's what's really neat about things like Hyperland is that sharing of easy sharing of this is how I'm utilizing it,
Mm-hmm.
and and I feel like that's kind of how things used to be more. That used to be more the norm, and now that maybe it's not as normal as it used to be. If that does that make any sense, or am I crazy? Do you think I'm a little off my rocker on this one?
I get
Like
what you
I'm
mean. Yeah,
like I'm missing the boat on that.
there's been I could be completely wrong. This is just my perspective of things. So preface that anyone in chat who wants to say I'm crazy, it's fine.
Throw some rocks
But
at you.
yeah, I don't know. It feels like there has been a lot of push for the productization of things because we want to attract users, and especially people coming from Windows 10 who might that's a big thing. And just over the years, you kind of want to make it easier to use, not just for new people, but just so things get out of your way. And, you just launch an app and do your thing, right? There's totally a space for that. But it's also nice to see that there are spaces that aren't necessarily focused on a complete product, and you still have the sort of build it yourself mentality, and I like that.
Yeah, and I like that too. But at the same time, I still like the productization. I guess I'm glad there's an option to go one way or the other with it.
That's all. That's kind of my point. Yeah, I think it's good to have both. I don't think you want to be stuck with just what you got, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that. Now, do you see something like tiling window managers basically just being for, forgive the term, but the elite users
Like
of
turbo nerds.
turbo nerds? Let's go with that instead. I like that better.
I don't think it's necessarily just for turbo nerds because people have, like I said, they have install scripts and things to make it like way easier to get set up and going.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's for people who do a lot of multitasking, and specifically, I really think it shines on a single screen. Not that it can't be used on multiple screens, it certainly can. But as I use, like, I'm generally on a laptop screen or an ultra wide, and like being able to use a tiler on those, super useful. Swapping between workspaces and things like that, and tiling things within it. It's a very natural thing. I think people who are more keyboard driven will probably enjoy it, even if they're not like programmers or whatever. Like they're just people who enjoy, clicking clacking on a keyboard, you
Mm-hmm.
moving around with a keyboard and all that's really handy. I don't I can see it being intimidating to a new user or someone who's not familiar. When I say new user, I mean new to tiling window manager users. I can see how it could be a little intimidating. But I think that's generally because most people if I had to guess, start from just nothing, start from a clean config.
Mm-hmm.
where it might better serve them to start from somebody else's config.
Okay, now that there was this is probably back in the Biddle days. We did uh, a distribution challenge on. It was an Ubuntu-based tiling distribution.
Like based on i3 or whatever, probably now Sway, but
Yeah, I cannot remember what it was
yeah,
called.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I can't
And we
remember
actually
the name.
we had the developer came on and talked about it too, and I really enjoyed that one. Man, what is it called though?
I think it was based on i3, whichever it was. But and that's the thing. There's quite a few tilers out there that even if one doesn't really quite, like i3 is a lot more manual tiling. Like there's a lot more manual, in my experience, more manual movement. Whereas you might prefer an auto tiler like a GWM or Awesome or Hyperland to an extent. And so there's so many to choose from, and I guess that's the best part, right? If one doesn't fit you, another one just might.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. Man, I don't know what it was. Oh, Regolith.
Regolith, yeah.
Yeah, so Regolith is my first dipping of the toes in a tiling window manager. Yeah, it's based on i3. You got it. Ding ding ding.
Yeah,
what do you
so,
win?
Vince,
Nothing.
right? Vince
Mhm.
uses a tiler on his laptop. He's used it for years.
Yep.
And like he can't. I asked him like, you ever like install Windows on that laptop? He's like, no, I have to have i3 on here. I have to have I have to have my tiling window manager.
Yeah, I'm not a window manager fan, Adam. I just stick to XFCE. I've tried window managers in the past. I stay away from them.
No, it's cool. That's why there's options, right?
Yeah. I tried using someone else's config, making my own. I don't care to. I'm not that kind of guy personally.
I like it when the tiling managers also give the option to have floating windows as well. There was when I was configuring that extension in Plasma that I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah.
It allowed for you could set additional rules for what floats versus what tiles.
Yeah. You can do that in Hyperland
Okay.
as well.
Yeah, see that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because like dialogue boxes and stuff, it's kind of asinine to tile those.
Right. That'd make your eyes crazy. I think
it
I think
it would get in the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I think would be, and again, I'm just kind of grasping at. I'm not even sure what I'm grasping at right now, but what I was thinking though is, I have sometimes a hard time like jumping from one window to the next, like I know I'm sure you probably got it no problem, but being able to like keyboard wise just jump from one window to the next, not a big deal. I just can never remember the key combinations. It's probably because I'm a little bit slow and old or something like that. But
And the great thing is you can
Still use a
adapt. You
mouse.
can just adjust those keybinds. Like you can just make them what you want.
oh, and I know,
Like,
and then I
if you're
forgot
okay
those
with,
too.
Like, control and the arrow keys.
Yeah,
Cool.
but I forgot those too. So it was like a lose for me.
Right. I'm used to the Vim key bindings, HDKL, so I usually just bind it to that. Usually control an HDKL to move around.
You know what? That's why. Oh, that's a totally different topic. But Bing, I just realized that's probably why on the C64, it's like a retro machine, when you
It has the
navigate
arrow
with the
keys there?
keyboard, that's how it uses to navigate if you don't have a joystick.
Right.
And it's like, why is it so annoying?
Like H and L are left and right, J is down, K is up.
Yeah, but they also added U up as well, so they made it a little bit better.
What's U do?
It just goes up. They actually have multiple keys. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But
Okay.
anyway. Well, very cool. Well, I'm interested. I'm interested in finding out like if you continue to use Hyperland, if that's kind of the thing you're going to be doing, or if you're going to be, or if that's just an exit on the journey of Linux for you.
Man,
For a while.
It's been what, 20-something years? Yeah. Yeah. It's just another one, right?
Yeah.
But I really appreciate that when I play a game on it,
Uh-huh.
that it puts the game in. It automatically puts the config I got automatically puts the game in a different workspace.
Okay.
In this case, workspace 8, and so I can just use Super 8 to go to the game, or Super 2 goes to my browser and all that.
Mhm.
And there's no like weird alt tab weirdness that comes with it. It's because it's in its own like workspace. Super smooth. Really great for looking up, stuff on a wiki to like for a game, where you can't find something and you're like, where's this at? Really awesome and like the fact that there's no like alt tab shenanigans really makes things great.
No, that is neat. Yeah, when it does like Plasma, it's control and then the function keys to jump to different.
Wow, that's a stretch.
I got big hands, so it's okay.
I have little like tiny baby hands, so yeah.
Oh,
And my
right.
keyboard doesn't have F keys, so
Oh, none at all.
it's a 60%. So no,
Oh,
it's a really small keyboard.
does it have like just like key combination to get to them?
Yeah, function, the FN key and the number rows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's how this keyboard is here too. So that's not too bad, I think. Not too
good
bad
time.
at all. Yeah. Well, cool. That was fun.
Mhm.
Does anybody here have any experience with window managers besides my almost none experience? Nearly none. Shasta, you seem like a window manager kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm definitely a window manager guy. Yeah. I have I normally, if I use a window manager, I use like DWM or Spectre WM. Those are my favorites. Xmonad's really good too.
So
And
what caused you to gravitate toward those? Are there specific features?
yeah, so I like the ability to keep my hands on my keyboard when I'm doing stuff. And so like when I'm coding, this is why I use NeoVim and Tmux, for example.
Okay.
Because I can keep my fingers on my keyboard. I don't really need a tiling window manager anymore now that I'm, really good at using like Tmux and using, a few using buffers on NeoVim and stuff like that. But I still like the layout. The layout makes sense. I like being able to like go between my browser and my terminal without actually having to touch my mouse. Like everybody's like point and click, and that wastes a lot of time if you have the right keyboard shortcuts.
Right. No, I get it.
Yeah.
So Steven Anderson says, Adam, what games do you play? Dead Island is free on Epic Games.
Let's say that again.
Steven Anderson says, what games do you play on Dead Island? What games do you play? Dead Island is free on Epic Games, and then Dead Island 2, that is. So I guess he's asking if you play Dead Island.
I have not played Dead Island.
Okay.
Lately I have put about 340 hours into Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay. Is that the new one?
Yeah, that's been kind of my thing lately. Before that, it was like 300 something hours of Elden Ring, so you see a pattern.
I do. It's like all in on something.
But no, I play all kinds of things. I started the new Doom the Dark Ages. That was pretty fun. I didn't finish Stellar Blade earlier. I play everything, man. Damn near anything you throw at me, I'll play it.
Need for Speed. Do you play that? My oldest is into Need for Speed kick right now.
Yeah. Need for Speed Underground was probably my favorite. Underground and Underground 2. That was on like the PS2 through GameCube, Xbox.
Okay.
But as far as the new ones go, Need for Speed Heat wasn't very bad. Unbound is all right. I think Unbound's better than Heat. But
so I can't tell the difference between them because I haven't really played them. To me, it's all the same. But the one he's
oh no, they're very similar. But
the one he's playing is like from 2011 the most, or 2013, something like that. I don't know which one that is.
Need for Speed Rivals, or is it just Need for Speed? Because they did like a reboot one. They had like Need for Speed The Run, Payback. They so many of them, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's throw some new cars in there, some new tracks, and call it a new game.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you're not gonna get the good old days of Need for Speed 2 or Hot Pursuit, but they're pretty good. So Underground and Underground 2 were kind of the high point.
I got you. I mean, he's playing it in 4K and it looks good. So, although now he's running he's been distro hopping lately, and he's been running Mint. So I think that'll make Anna Rita happy. But
Wow. Linux Mint. I don't even think I've seen that distro in probably 15 years.
he was having a hard time with he wanted to use Dolphin in it, and then it wasn't looking right. I'm like, dude, I don't have any solutions for you on that one. But Fratum says, I played around with Hyperland, but I didn't have time to jump into the configs for it, so I never got into the state where I was happy with it. I am lazy when it comes to configs. That's all right. I get it.
Man, if you're lazy with configs, just go get someone else's. Go get like an install script that someone made. Just run that.
Or use ChatGPT.
Yeah, do what I said first, and then
Yeah, I like I said, I tried a I tried I tried cloning someone else's config, Adam. I just, like I said, window managers and me just doesn't work. I'm just not somebody who enjoys doing those, kinds of manual tilers. I'm just not into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's not for everybody. Different strokes, different folks. I get it.
Yeah. It's not for me.
All right. Well, very cool. All right, we're going to move on to our straw poll. So if you haven't done the straw poll, we got a few moments here to knock out that straw poll real quick. If you have not seen it in the, I can copy it real quick.
I haven't.
So you can here. I'll put it in the chat here for you.
Thank you.
And then I'll put it in the YouTubers chat. And then also I forgot to do this for Jinda. So because I think he's the one that likes digging this too. So sorry, Jinda. I'm a bad guy.
I guess Anna really took feelings to my hit on Linux Mint. Let's just say no one really uses Linux Mint.
I think a lot of people do. I think it's probably one of the most popular distributions.
Yeah, it's popular.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, very
I
much.
never.
Well, maybe not in your circles, but there's a wide world of sports out there that people play all kinds of games. So, yeah. So, but anyway, let me pick up Anna Rita's mood a little bit and tell her that my son is really enjoying Linux Mint right now. He went from OpenSUSE Tumbleweed to Slow Roll to Fedora to one of the Ubuntus to another Ubuntu. Now he's on Mint, and yeah. So there we go.
So he went from rolling release to less rolling release to less rolling release to something that stays pretty old then.
Well, I think yes. We'll just
Yeah.
leave it at that.
Which makes sense if that's what he needs and that's what he likes. I mean, run with it.
He wants to play his games, but he likes
Yeah.
Plasma. But he wants Plasma 6, so he's really waiting for Leap 16 right now. I don't know. He was disappointed that Fedora got slower frame rates than OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. So it was really irritating him a lot. And so they wanted to try something else. And that's why he went to Mint. I said, we could try to do Tumbleweed. He's like, but Tumbleweed and NVIDIA doesn't get along. I'm like, okay, well, do
What
you want.
about Bazite?
What about has he taken the jump to try to the Leap 16 beta?
He did. And it crashed and burned on him.
I didn't have a very. I'm waiting for it to get better. I'll say it that way.
Well, it's a beta,
It is, yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, good times. All right, so back to that straw poll. So the question was, how long do you keep your spinning hard drives in service? And some of the replies: I only buy spinning hard drives for server applications. I wait till they are completely failed out before I swap them out. I have one already I have to replace on my server. Oh, that was me. Another one says, you don't trash equipment until it fails. To be honest, I'm in an enterprise environment. It makes sense to turn over the equipment on a schedule to reduce the operational costs. In a user case environment, you buy the cast-offs from the enterprise and run them into the ground. And then someone says, another response is, forever. They do last a long time, it seems. Like some of them just seem to last forever. Another, I answered, but my first choice wasn't there. I think you should swap into SSDs right away if you can, or keep the HDDs for stuff you don't use much, and the SSDs for things you do the most. Another says I phased out all of them except the one on my PC. Aren't they all PCs? No?
Yeah. I haven't had a spinning disk hard drive in 10 years. So I don't know.
Whoa, okay, can't hide money. All right. Big
Oh.
shot here. Trying to do
I'm not trying to be a
Doing
big
that.
shot. I just
doing a
I
nerd
just
flex on
haven't
us.
had any. Yeah, I just
Man.
haven't.
I
Someone
have
else
a
says-
spinning hard drive on my main system that has been, it's probably close to 10 years old. It's been in 3 different machines, and right now it's just a big old spinny backup drive that I have in here, but it's still running and I'm still using it.
yeah, I mean, if it does its job, right? Run to the
Yep.
ground. Someone else
Yeah.
says,
No, I would too. Yeah.
yeah, well,
I'd
10
run
years
them
ago.
into the ground. Yeah,
Nerd-
10
nerd
years
flex,
ago.
Yeah. I don't have a single spinning disc in production at the moment. XD. Is that a smiley? I don't know what that is. But I do have one in reserve. Another says, I haven't used spinning drives in years. They're just too unreliable, I think.
Well, yeah.
Well, it depends on the application.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I run them on my NAS because they're for that use they're pretty reliable, and they're set up on a RAID system. So
Right. Yeah, I don't use them for any like laptops. I have one laptop that still has an actually has an SSHD that's still spinning, so I'm gonna keep that going. But yeah, for my Synology NAS out here, that's spinning, and my server in my basement, that's spinning. So I don't see the need to swap those into hard drives. 'Cause I'm not asking for high speed anything. Just keep doing its thing. So I12 BCD 8D now, NOW, what's it? It says as good as SSDs are now, no real use for spinning hard disks unless you have a spare one and are using it for storage. Yeah, I can see that. He says, just my 2 cents. I'm broke.
Yeah. I just always thought they made too much noise. And so like when like SSDs like came out, like I don't know, I was just in a weird position to just, have SSDs.
Did
But I
you-
normally use laptops too. so.
Did you go from like MFMs to SSDs? Is that why you said they're so noisy?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what you did? Your old
Yeah.
IBM 8088 with the
Well,
double-
not
the double fiber
Yeah,
cord?
I had a couple of those. Yeah.
Those actually sounded kind of cool, I think.
Yeah. But they always just kind of like after a while, like not right away, but after a while, like after a couple of years of using them, they just had that really loud sound. Like, let's see here. I think this is the only one I have left. And I have like minimal storage on it, but I use it just to back up things. But I use it like maybe once a month.
Mm.
Or,
I say
But,
strap a couple
yeah.
quantum fireballs to the bottom of your seat and have a good time.
yeah.
Those spin up to like what, 7,200 RPM?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a correction here. I want to be sedated. The username spelled out. So that's what that the I12BC. So it's I want to be sedated. Now, I got it. That's kind of funny. That must be what the hip kids do. I don't know that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we'll go to see what the tally was in the straw poll. Now that I just kind of stammered for a while here. And the survey says, let's see here. What does the survey say? I'm waiting for the results. So in number 1 at 53% or 53.8% is replace them until they basically don't work anymore. Number 2 is replace them as soon as a threshold of errors is reached, and that's at 15.4%. And then tied for second place is also I avoid buying spinning hard drives. And then in fourth place, replace them after a certain amount of years. And then then other and Tux Penguin. So anyway, so I guess so most people they run them into the ground, I guess. That was interesting. Yeah, I got to buy a replacement 5 terabyte drive already. Boo. It works. It's just it starts flashing orange, and then my server complains. So
Well, another thing too, you have to look at the cost per megabyte and what you're using it for, right? Because like for instance, a 4 terabyte Western Digital Red is $94 on Amazon. A 4 terabyte Western Digital SATA SSD is $242.
Right. That's why I
So-
said Shaston was doing his nerd flex, saying like I'm way above you guys.
I don't. I don't
Hard
think
disk drives
that.
are so beneath me. I'm just kidding, Shaston. I'm just kidding around.
I know. I got you.
Listen, you got to have fun with everything.
No, absolutely. I'm not a snowflake.
Yeah. Oh, I know. You're a rock. Rock of
Yeah.
Gibraltar. I'm not saying you're like the rock, but maybe you are. I don't know.
Well, no, not like that. I
Next thing
can't
you know,
save
he's an
you, so I'm
Instagram
not the rock.
influencer over in France, traveling around, talking about how he doesn't have hard drives.
All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and get on to the open mic night. I want to kick this off with some gaming news. Gaming news that I guess affects me, I guess. So, does anybody here play the Minecraft, or am I the only one?
My son does.
Yeah, my
I
kids.
don't have time for it.
My youngins play it all the time.
Let's see.
What's Minecraft?
I play Minecraft. In fact, I have 2 Minecraft servers that I fire up every now and then.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, for those of you who don't know, Minecraft is a nearly ancient game now that keeps getting updates. Was eventually bought by Microsoft for reasons I'm not 100% sure, but they did. And it's a game of digital Legos, I suppose, where kids can build and create and then have adventures and whatnot in a world that they can build and shape and do things for themselves. So what I think is neat about Minecraft and what I enjoy the most is just like it's a social thing with my kids, and then I build things and it's just fun. There's a bit of an art to how you build things when you're in survival mode. If you're in creative mode, you can do whatever, but in survival mode is kind of it's the challenge of trying to get the stuff you need, and then my it's one world I play with my son that he likes. It's a little bit weird, but he likes to have lots of villagers, so he has villager breeders. I'm like, those are brothels, but anyway, so you get like skills and what that you can give them. Then you can like trade with them and buy stuff, and then anyway, so it's kind of neat. I don't know. It's a fun game. I like making buildings and furnishing them and making anyway. So that's what I think is fun. But anyway, what the news story is Minecraft will finally let you craft saddles instead of hunting for them. So I'll read the article here. So in a future Minecraft release that is now in testing, you'll need to hunt or fish for a saddle, as it's finally going to be an item you can just craft. Seems the knowledge was finally found. It took 15. So took 15 years of people asking for it before they got it. So why are they doing this now? Well, it sort of makes sense. Well, it doesn't reduce part of the point of exploring the world. Hence, it's yet another thing you can just make yourself. Mojang announced the Happy Ghast that will let you ride it with the crafted harness anyway. So it was a bit odd for you to be able to craft the harness, but not the saddle. So, on some related news, there's he has an idiot's guide to setting up Minecraft on a Steam Deck. So anyway, the fresh update is it's in testing, was revealed by Mojang on May 13th. All you need are 3 bits of leather and 1 iron ingot, and you can ride away into the night. So yeah, and there's yet. What my oldest son, he doesn't like the Minecraft where you get the crafting book. He says that's cheating, and I can't remember how to craft these things. So anyway, I just think it's fun that by different combinations of where you put things makes a different thing, and to remember all those recipes is, I think, impossible. But anyway, so I think that's exciting. Anybody here excited, or is that going to be pretty much just am I the cheese that stands alone on that one?
I don't know.
I to be honest couldn't care less about that game.
Of course.
I'm a Star Wars guy, Nate, and that's just mainly what I have time for nowadays. I don't really have time to venture out into newer games. Isn't that right, Ricky?
Oh man, that means you're getting old, Ben. Getting stuck in your ways. You're in a rut.
I'm almost 34, dude. I have 2 Galaxy servers.
Youngster.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I have 2 Star Wars
green or
Galaxy
wet behind the
servers, and I just don't have time to throw in another game right now.
I pretty much mainly play old school retro games. It's extremely rare that I play modernized games. The main reason why I help Ben with his SWG stuff is basically I'm a tester with that, and that's the only reason why I play SWG is for testing purposes mainly. Other than that, I'm mainly playing first-person shooters like Quake, Doom, Hexen, Quake 2, Doom 3, all that. I'm a first-person shooter guy.
I got you. Minecraft is kind of like a first-person shooter if you got the bow and arrow. Yes, Adam.
Nate, I have kind of wanted at times to get back into Minecraft, but every time I do, I don't. But not because it's not fun, because it's overwhelming. It's so much. And it's been so long since I played. They've added so much and changed so much that it would take a bit for me to learn it again.
Yeah. My son, though, I have to say, my son learned electricity from playing Minecraft, and so I was remodeling my apartment here in Mexico, and I had to add a couple of outlets and do a little bit of wiring, and I couldn't figure it out. And he's like, listen to me. He was like 14 years old. He's like, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. You got to do it like this, this, and this. And sure enough, he wired my apartment.
With redstone? Did you do it with redstone?
I don't know. But it was with Minecraft. I don't, but it was pretty incredible. I was like, wow, there's so now every time someone has a problem with electricity, they call on him.
Well, I mean, that's something. Oh, and a wild Michael appeared. So that's exciting.
Did you hear Minecraft and show up? Is that what happened?
It might be, yeah.
Yeah.
It's Minecraft, not Minecraft. Just and
Oh, you're muted. I'm sure it would have been very funny.
Minecraft is in no way related to anything I do ever. Just so you know.
Is that good or bad?
I mean, I've never played the game, so I have no idea whatsoever.
Yeah, I think it's fun, and it works great in Linux. I think what's fun, what I find interesting, there was a it's an open mic night, so whatever. There was a mod that my youngest son wanted me to play. It's like the combination of Pokemon and Minecraft.
Pixelmon?
No, actually, it's actually Pokemon in there. So you get the Charizard.
No, I think it was like Pixelmon or something was the mod. I'm familiar with what you're talking about.
Golly, I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But you would catch Pokemon and you'd fight Pokemon. You can ride some of them too and fly around like in Charizard. And I thought that was pretty cool. You grind them out like you would in the game, but in a Minecraft world, and you have the ability to build things like in Minecraft, but also have Pokemon and you can throw them out in battle. Anyway, so that was kind of fun. Silly, but I'm amazed by the number of mods people write for the thing. So
There's some really cool ones like computer craft and stuff where you can like build automations and like have all these different like robots. It almost becomes like the Minecraft version of Factorio. If you're familiar with that.
I'm
So,
not.
like you can kind of like have like mining bots and that like dig for you, and you sort of you program them kind of similar you would like standard robotic stuff. Very
Oh.
simple instructions and things.
Well, that's
and
cool.
some of them actually have like programming languages for doing it too. It's pretty neat.
That's wild. Yeah, I'm pretty amazed by the breadth of the community mods for Minecraft. Someone did it's like an adrenaline patch or mod, whatever. It has a bunch of other like patches and whatnot, but like they're all layered together so that you can get like better performance out of it, and then also it looks more fancy, I guess. I don't know, but it's interesting the amount of effort people put into the modifications. So anyway, I guess we'll move on to the next thing here. So the next and maybe Michael was reading my mind, or maybe he read the show notes. I don't know, but KDE Plasma 6.4 beta was released with Aurorae and KWin X11.
100%. It was.
Yeah.
I read your mind.
So, and actually, I was fascinated on this when I heard it on This Week in Linux. So I'm sure that that's actually
a great show.
Yeah, I was actually working on the electric fence around my house when I was listening to that. And no, I didn't zap myself, but I was pretty excited.
That's good.
So the new modules with Plasma 6.4 include the KWin X11 and Aurorae. KWin X11 is splitting off the X11 Xorg specific code into its own package, separate from KWin, as it becomes more Wayland focused for the eventual deprecation of X11 support and removal at a later point. More details on that can be looked up. Aurorae is new to Plasma 6.4 with a theme engine for KWin window decorations, where it uses SVG and QML to render decorations and buttons. In addition to these new modules, Plasma 6.4 is bringing a variety. I feel like I just heard this on a podcast, so I'm like regurgitating the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and I only like 8 hours ago too.
Yeah, actually, it's about 4 hours ago I was listening to it.
Okay.
So this brings a variety of Wayland improvements and other shiny new features. KDE Plasma 6.4 brings some nice usability improvements, various crash fixes, better pixel perfection with KWin, and other refinements. And they have links to all that. Will be in the show notes on this. But for information on changes, you can check that out at kde.org. So the second beta release is scheduled 2 weeks from now. So on the 29th of June. That's more than 2 weeks from now. And then to have official KDE plus 6.4.0 release on 17th of June. Yeah, I would think that was might have been 29th of May. So 17th of June is when it should be released. So I think what is interesting is this new theme engine. Like I'm wondering what does that mean that they've actually separated it out? Is that
nothing?
It's
a technological development thing. It has nothing to do with. A lot of the times, these kinds of things are important, but they're not user facing. So this is a completely non-user facing thing. This is something that's going to be beneficial for the developers to be able to still have the theme engine work properly, but not have to worry about it being tied to X, because it was tied to X. But that's because before this, KWin was all one thing. So the Wayland, the X, and the Aurorae stuff were all in the same project, sort of. And that meant that any progress done on the Wayland side had to also correlate in parallel with the X11 stuff. This way they can separate those things and then focus on just pushing the Wayland version forward. And then when someone wants to use the X11, they can just swap out which one is being used rather than just telling KWin to use a different set of configurations. So this way it's more of a cleaner development path and a more cleaner experience, because you can just swap back and forth between the bases. And Aurorae is just being split outside of it, so it's not dependent on either one of those things. But it's the same engine they've already had, and it's the same theme system that they've had.
I imagine also it probably makes for more agile development if you have a smaller code base that you're working on for
Yeah, exactly.
Wayland
That too.
and Aurorae, so you don't have to.
It also means that the people who are working on KWin don't have to always, work on the theme engine itself. And they can do that separately as well. So I think ultimately it's a good thing for the developers, and users will notice absolutely nothing.
Well, they might notice more improvements.
That's true. I mean, like the actual transition, I don't think they'll do that thing. But in the long run, when there's new features, they'll notice that for sure. And also the Wayland will probably get better because they can focus more without having to, because sometimes you do something in Wayland that will break X if you have them in the same project. This way they can not worry about that because you can swap over to the X version when you want to, if you want to.
So I guess the other thing I'm thinking about with X not being, I guess, developed as much now, or it's not no longer. No, people don't want to develop. I guess it's the same people who worked on X that work on Wayland, right? It's the same same organization or same group of people.
It's the same group. The Wayland's purpose is to replace X, and it was started by the same people because of the massive technical debt that X has.
Right. And then X Wayland is the bridge for applications that are not working natively
That have not been optimized for Wayland.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, so one of the things I had to do with LibreOffice was I had some scaling issues if I have like various scaling between monitors. I had some scaling issues with for fractional scaling with LibreOffice, where it would make the icons comically big on certain screens and blow everything up and be unusable and on Wayland with fractional scaling. If I had any monitor at 100% or less scaling, it would do that. But if I had anything more than 100%, it wouldn't do the crazy scaling. So the fix actually ended up being is forcing LibreOffice to work on X Wayland, and then also it made it operate so much smoother and faster. So I guess it's because
it's just because it's not been optimized.
Yeah.
It's still, I mean, that's not surprising in any way because LibreOffice is a massive code base. In order to transition to Wayland support, it's going to be a long time, a very long time. I suspect that X Wayland would be around for, like, in terms of like the compatibility shim, minimum 10 years, probably at least 20 years, and also, if not forever.
I'm voting forever, probably. That if I had to put my money on anything,
It's probably going to be forever.
It'll outlive me, is what I'm guessing.
I think so, just because of how many things that are dependent on X and are unlikely to change. Because this is to be fair to people who like look at the whole Wayland versus X thing and like look at X being this, this thing that's always it's always worked or whatever, and Wayland being this thing that's kind of new and broken or so there's issues or whatever. It's the only time this has ever been attempted for the entire the life of this ecosystem. It's the first time someone's ever attempted to replace X, and it's a giant undertaking. It's an enormous thing. I mean, the fact that this was even started is kind of crazy in the sense of like, the expectation of how long this would take, because it's already been almost 20 years, and it's been 17 years, I think. So
well,
the amount, and it's not anywhere near what people expected in some cases.
To be fair, though, the first several years was more like writing the spec for it. It wasn't really like there was anything useful.
I mean, the intent of, in the sense of like they decided, I'm gonna make this display server replacement. It's gonna take a long time just to even make that decision. To start working on this project. So it's more of like it's expecting to eventually replace it, but right now, I mean. It's not like there was ever needed to be a shim for the thing that came before X, because X came before Linux, so there's nothing to have done. So it's one of those things that it's probably going to be okay that the X Wayland's going to be around forever. It's probably fine.
The performance is good, so I don't care as long as
Mhm.
it performs well. That's all I really care about at this point.
In some ways, X Wayland performs better than X.
Really? Well,
Yeah, sometimes depending on the application.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Oh,
Why would that even be?
Because it's running on a smoother baseline. Because Wayland is actually, for all the faults that Wayland has, Wayland has a ton of cool things too. Because it's like basically automatically hardware accelerated and stuff like that, and you don't have to do that much to get it to do performance value. Like I remember, like I don't know, 2012 maybe 2013, somewhere around there. There was a project to demo what Wayland could do, and even at that time, it could already do crazy performance stuff, but like also very high level 3D effects. Now, this was because this was the early days like demo thing, and it doesn't really relate to what it's kind of like how like the cube is like demonstrating of how cool you could do stuff with compiz and whatever. It's the same kind of thing where they would show you could take a window and you could just spin it around for no reason at all. You could just spin, rotate it, and you could also change it in 3D space and all this other stuff. And it was how smooth it was doing all this stuff in the really early days. And it's because of its performance value. It's like it just is a higher performing system. And X Wayland basically allows X apps to run in that system without requiring it to be based on the Wayland protocols and stuff. So it seems like it would make sense that it shouldn't be that way. It should actually be performing worse, you would imagine, because it's a shim. But because the baseline of Wayland is so much better than X, that's what makes it possible. Is that Wayland is better. Wayland will be better. Right now, compatibility wise, it's not there yet, but it will be. It will be better, and it's already proven in a lot of ways that it is. Because like I've seen stuff that, like, one of the biggest factors is that people talk about how, at least for 20 years, there was people making videos about how to get rid of screen tearing on X and Linux and whatever. And Wayland doesn't have screen tearing at all. It never happens because it's built for that purpose of performing better, so the screen tearing never happens. So you don't have to worry about it. Those videos will never exist. And you can use X Wayland to kind of provide a stopgap between those two things. So that's why. It's just Wayland is better. It technically isn't compatible with everything, but in terms of like performance, is massively better, 10 times probably. And also, it's because X is
I
a
would
very
hazard a
crafty
guess
thing.
as to why X Wayland performs so well is probably because X Wayland doesn't have to also facilitate a compositor in the way that a full X desktop does. And so your application itself is running on top of the Wayland compositor.
No, the compositor, in my opinion, the compositor is not the factor, because it's just like the X compositing stuff is just not efficient.
That's what I'm saying. And so the X Wayland itself, the X Wayland app, doesn't have to host its own compositor to run the app on. The app itself is running on an supposedly uncomposited X Wayland
shorter
sort of container rather than right. So like
but I mean, there is still compositing happening. It's more of like
but Wayland's
what's handling that.
Yeah.
Well, technically, the desktop is handling that. That's the only thing I don't like about Wayland. The only thing I don't like about Wayland is that it does not have a compositor, and that is kind of annoying for like a modern desktop. That's it. But everything else is really good.
Yeah. I actually agree pretty much with everything you said about Wayland. The only thing that I get annoyed by is how everybody, because this is fairly new, it seems like they're shoving it down our throats, just like the Rust thing and everything else. And like, I'm just going to be very candid. Your tiling window managers in Wayland suck. I'm sorry. They can't stand up to Xmonad or DWM or Spectre WM. They just can't. The functionality just isn't there. there's like these weird, like I used Hyperland, I've used River. I haven't used Sway because I don't use i3. Um, so I don't see a point with that. But the one thing is I get annoyed by that. That every distro, Ubuntu, Fedora, they're just like pushing this Wayland
Whoa,
down our
whoa, whoa!
throats.
If you're gonna disparage, you may as well. You have to include OpenSUSE. You can't
Oh,
just. You
yeah,
can't.
but
Because
I don't
if
see
you're gonna
them. I
call
don't
out
actually see
distros, at
them
least call
doing
mine
that
out.
actually. But it's fine. I wasn't but
I love that, Nate. That's awesome.
that was good actually. No, but the thing is I don't like using Wayland tiling window managers. I just don't because they have really weird behavior issues that haven't been worked out. And they work on X perfectly, just the way I want them.
Well,
What's
so
the
And there's
what's
another
the biggest
there's
factor?
another thing that kind of I think a lot of people probably would kind of identify with me is I saw recently there was a guy who was using Plasma 5. He was using the X11 version and he was using it with BSPWM. And he had this perfect setup for himself. And as soon as I went to Wayland, not only could he not use BSPWM, but they took a lot of the support away from the X11. All of a sudden there was like all these unintended consequences for it. But he had like the
I mean,
perfect
that's
system. He's a developer. Like sometimes like when you're doing development stuff, like you want the perfect system, you want it to stay there. You don't want it to
I mean,
go anywhere.
honestly, in that situation, that's such a edge case that he should expect things like that to happen. Like you're gonna take a desktop, put in a window manager that has nothing to do with the desktop, and then the people who make the desktop are tweaking their desktop to use the window manager they want, and you have a
Hmm.
completely different. You should expect it to not work like that. It's not the same thing. So like if you're gonna go into and modify things to that degree, you should just expect things to go wonky at some point because that's how it works when you customize that to that level.
Well, but Plasma's selling point was that you could use a tiling window manager or a window manager
That's
in
the Plasma
general.
has never promoted that you can replace your window manager as a selling point. Some people could,
Are
so you
you
can do it, but they don't promote that as like a thing like, oh, this is the thing, a reason to use KDE.
really? Because
No,
as soon as I had like OpenBox and I installed Plasma, like it right there um in my display manager, I would have the option to use Plasma, Plasma with OpenBox, Plasma with BSPWM.
no, they
It
give you
would
the option
configure
to do it. It doesn't mean that they're
automatically.
promoting it as if that's something that
Right.
you
Yeah.
should do.
I don't go to the Plasma website and they talk about look at all
I
these
don't
other
know.
tiling window managers you can use instead of the
Yeah.
work we put into KWin.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they promote KWin exclusively, nothing else.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to swap it out, you can technically because KDE Plasma is built that way. So if you wanted to do it, then have fun, enjoy, but don't expect KDE to support that, and don't expect anyone really to support that. And it's just like when someone says I'm using Mint and then I put KDE Plasma in it. It's the same thing because Mint does not support Plasma, so you shouldn't expect them to give you support for it if you do this odd configuration for them in their case. So if you replace, like the thing is, if someone wants to replace the window manager and put in their own custom window manager for whatever that might be, just do it in XFCE. Not because XFCE supports that, or in the sense that they promote it or anything, they don't. But they also only update once every 2 or 3 years, and you're a bigger safe bet to do XFCE because it's gonna when it does update, it's probably a very tiny update in comparison and breaking
You
stuff.
can use a
Whereas Plasma
tiling window
constantly
man.
moves.
You can use a tiling window manager in XFCE. I've tried
XFCE
many
can
times. I've
the
never
same
been able
th-
to do it.
you can
I've been
replace the window manager in XFCE and Plasma in the very similar ways. So like, just how you
like,
can replace KWin, you can actually put KWin into XFCE if you want to. Like you totally
yes, I
could.
know that. Yeah. You're right.
But you could do the
I've
same. You could do
never
it with
been
another
able
one.
to install like BSPWM, DWM, or any of those tiling window managers in XFCE ever.
I mean, honestly, I don't really see the appeal to do it anyway.
No, I don't either,
but
other than
I'm just
to
saying if somebody
use, like-
wanted to do that, they could technically do it. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy process or anything. It'd probably be very difficult because it's not made for that, just like KDE is not made for that.
I
But
mean,
what
I
I'm
don't
like
know.
in terms of Wayland though, it's good that these distributions are pushing Wayland. Like if they're not pushing Wayland, no one will ever use it. If no one pushed Wayland, no one would use it. You know.
I could think of worse things in the world, but okay.
Well,
No, but actually, I don't disagree with you. I do think that there has to be like a fine line. I just don't like feeling like it's being shoved down my throat. But
I mean,
I
mean,
get
they
what you're
started
saying.
making it in 2008, and they're just now pushing it to the degree of like removing X in Fedora. Like Fedora is the first one to remove X, and they only did it with KDE, and they just now did it with I think they did it in 42 with GNOME. So they just now did it with GNOME, and they did it in 41 with KDE Plasma, and no one else is doing that. Everybody else has X if you want to use X.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
so that
disagree
means
with
that
that assertion that they're forcing it down people's throats. Like, there's plenty of
no,
options.
yeah,
to not
they're
have
not forcing
Wayland, yeah.
anything. No, in my opinion, I actually this is a pet peeve of mine when people say that insert distro or insert project is forcing something onto people. Like you could just not use it.
Yeah,
It's
you
not
can
a
just
force.
that's the advantage
Like,
of the
a
ecosystem,
force
right?
is
Just use something else.
exactly. There are choices. So if it's not a force, if they give you an option to not do that, it's like when people say that Ubuntu is forcing snaps. No, they're not. You can use debs if you want to. You can install Flatpaks if you want to. You can use an app image if you want to. That's not forcing anything. So that sort of stuff is just like that's just a pet peeve of mine when people say forcing.
I think you have to take into consideration what the developers are developing in a direction that suits their efficiency as well. So it like as far as to get to whatever their ultimate goal is. So the developers develop to create a thing to do a function, right? Are you looking at the screen really closely?
No, yeah, I was
Like,
trying.
was there something on my face? I was like, I wasn't sure.
The screen's far away from me.
That's okay. And so I know that the developers are going away from X11 because of its technical liability that's wrapped up into it. It's difficult to maintain. It's unwieldy. It's inefficient as far as the pipeline, the graphical pipeline, and it's insecure. So in order to fix all that, I think would be more burdensome to fix that code base would be too burdensome. So, really, if somebody wants to fix or maintain or push X11 for their own purposes, they're free to do so if they have the skill set to do so. And so there's nobody forcing anybody to do anything in open source. It's just even Linus Torvald said himself, it's all about satisfying our own selfish desires or whatever. He built Git for selfish reasons so that he could, since he didn't have to interact with people, actually is why he did it. But the so to merge the code and to manage code more efficiently, talking less to people. And Linux is also the same thing. He built that for a selfish purpose. So I think, if someone wants to for a selfish purpose, and not selfish in a bad way, I'm not saying it in a bad way, but if someone wants to maintain something for themselves, whether it's, 32-bit compatibility, do so. I guess it's really, it's up to you to.
It's only selfish if you don't share it,
Right.
You're doing it for selfish reasons, but you're giving it away for selfless reasons,
Yeah, it's a give and take.
Yeah, I think the other point that you made, I was actually looking to see because your name is so small on the video here. I was trying to look in and see what I can't see it. It's too far away because I have a very small monitor up here. But the comment about shoving it down our throats kind of thing. I do think that that's happening. I think that is accurate
Yeah.
because it's not like they are, putting something by default and then you can change it. They removed it entirely. Like if you want to, you have to manually add it back yourself, and you also have to acknowledge the fact that there's no support for it. So um, I do think you could argue that that is shoving it down your throat, but um, I also feel like that is something that is necessary, and um, Fedora is like the only distro that would do something in a way that's potentially problematic,
Yeah.
because they know that someone has to do it. And if it's not Fedora, like this is the greatest thing. I had some conversation with like, why would Fedora do this? And I was thinking like, I don't remember who the conversation was with, but if it's not Fedora, who would it be? Like,
Yeah.
because no one else does that kind of innovation stuff.
Ubuntu pushes.
No, Ubuntu takes forever to do everything. No,
Oh
Wait,
yeah.
not as much as
Yeah,
not
I
as much as
agree.
Debian, not as much as Debian,
Well,
but
they're
they
the same
still take
developers.
a long time. Do what?
Yeah.
They're the same developers largely.
No,
Yeah.
I'm saying Debian takes much longer. I'm just saying
Well, I know, but it's
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu contributes to Debian though, so it's the same
Yeah, but
developers.
that's a different topic though. I'm saying because the people who contribute to Debian still have to go through the Debian process, and the Debian slow pace is independent from Ubuntu. That's the reason why Ubuntu exists, is because Debian took forever to do everything. And like basically I think the best example of this is, what has Debian innovated since apt was created in 1998? If you can think of one thing, I'd be shocked.
Wasn't
So-
Ubuntu the first one to make Wayland default and
No,
years ago,
that
and
was
then they
Fedora.
No.
retracted it?
That was Fedora, way before.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
Yeah, Fedora did it before and also didn't retract it. Yeah. Yeah. They did
Yeah,
it way before it should have ever been done, and was like, it is what it is. It's broken. Deal with it.
I mean, as a developer, I do like a lot of what Wayland offers. Don't get me wrong. I think it's kind of cool. But sometimes, like, I don't have time. Like, I spend time, like, getting my system the way I like it. And then they're like, oh, now there's this new thing over here. And it's like, yeah, but I don't have time to, like, learn this whole new thing. And, like, I'm just fine the way it is, you know? But I mean, yeah,
That's the downside
frustrating.
of using something that's not fully like finalized in terms of like technologically speaking, I guess.
yeah.
But
And I mean, I
don't always
guess
have to
maybe
install.
like facilitate the learning curve. I don't know, but I'm 50 years old and grouchy and everything else, so maybe that's it. But I mean,
Get off my
like,
lawn.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Get off my lawn.
Yeah. Get off my Linux lawn. Get off my penguin.
Hey, want to hear something funny? I actually said that today.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
were you talking to your
but,
dogs? Or?
yeah.
No, it was some kids
You
were
know-
like digging in my yard. So
Yeah.
that's a justifiable reason for doing it.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, though, I will say, like, I like innovations. Like when NeoVim went to Lua, just because I hated Vim scripts so much, I loved it. Like, it was like, that makes sense. When Lazy NVim came out and they basically, hot loaded your plugins so easily, like, that made sense. I jumped on board immediately. Like most changes, I actually welcome. I'm just not sure about this Wayland thing.
Yeah, and talk
I mean,
about an application that breaks a lot. You have a bunch of plugins in NeoVim. Just get ready. You hit that lazy update, and you just just pray that it doesn't break.
Well, that's why you
Mhm.
have like a good base system, so that like if something does break, you just like like either uninstall it until you
Yeah,
have
I just
you
have
know,
like a
time to mess with it. I have a good base system so that that doesn't happen. I have like 6 tools that I rely on, and then the rest are optional.
Sublime text for the win.
Yeah.
Blech. No, I was kidding. Sublime's great.
Yeah.
Never paid for it, but I love it.
Yeah.
Well, you don't pay for it one time, and then it's forever.
I'm glad you
The
paid
Pay
for it
for
me.
what?
Pay for it one time, and you got it forever.
It's like
Sublime.
it's like the WinRAR of text editors.
It is basically. It is.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It's not as annoying as WinRAR though.
I don't like I've tried like a lot of those GUI, I tried VS Code, I tried what's the one for Python that everybody uses?
PyCharm,
PyCharm?
PyCharm. Yeah, I didn't like it.
Thonny. That's what that Raspberry Pi
Yeah.
uses.
I mean, I'm actually like I'm almost to the point where I think I'm gonna develop my own my own my
IDE?
own text editor. Yeah.
I think that Sublime is. I think the name Sublime is accurate. It is very sublime.
Really?
It is,
Yeah, I
it is
know.
incredibly
Yeah.
efficient. Like basically everybody who loves VS Code, like they like it because of two reasons. It's got this autocomplete thing, which
Mm.
admittedly good, and they have the fact that it's an Electron app basically means that it can show browser stuff. So if you do front end web stuff, it's very nice. But everything else is all taken from Sublime, like all the functionality, like the multi cursors, the plugins style and stuff like that, like the things that it can do, and having like calculations being built into it, and all these sorts of stuff. All that stuff was in Sublime years before VS Code existed. In fact, Atom, which predates VS Code, is a clone of Sublime Text, and Sublime Text is vastly more performant. Like it's not even close. Like the amount of heavy weight that VS Code has is minimum 10 times the weight that Sublime Text is, and it has basically its own custom stuff that they built. And then and it's also super efficient. The only thing it doesn't do is run in a terminal. So if anybody wants to do it over SSH, you can't use Sublime. However, if you get used to Sublime and you still want an SSH thing, you can use Micro, which is effectively Sublime over terminal. So
I've looked at
I use Micro.
I haven't really used it. I
Micro-
have those Vim key bindings like so hardwired to my fingers, and like some of the tools that I have in NeoVim I just really like. But
most of the tools, I feel like a lot of the most new tools in NeoVim, like the last time I looked was 3 years ago, but a lot of these new tools that were added in NeoVim and just Vim in general were just copies of things that were in Sublime.
yeah, I've tried Sublime. Don't get me wrong. I used it for a couple of months, a couple of years ago, when I was figuring out the whole Lua thing, and I didn't mind it. It wasn't terrible. And they do have you can set up Vim key bindings, like the HJKNL thing, and
I
like
feel like if you have a Vim, you have like a Vim gravity, you can't really get away from it. It's like
Oh yeah, no, I can't.
Vim has a magnetic pull to it.
There's an
Like
event
if you've already gone through the headache and the pain of learning Vim, and you already know how it works, and you can exit Vim, then you are
Sorry.
probably like there's no reason to not use it because you've already gone through the headache. You've already gone past the event horizon. Why bother getting away from it? I feel like that's like Emacs is just kind of convoluted in some ways, so I don't really think that it has any kind of like special thing you learn other than just shortcuts. But the way that you learn the style of Vim, it's just kind of like, what's the point of that? Because if you're replacing the way the thing is using to use Vim stuff, you might as well just use Vim.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I haven't used Emacs since the Commodore Amiga
Oh
days.
God, I used Doom Emacs for a while. I can't use regular Emacs. It just the key bindings are just I break my fingers trying to use it. Like they have a lot of really weird key bindings. I'd break my fingers.
I think I
I
might give.
almost lost good friends over using Emacs, so I stopped.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I don't.
I think I'm gonna try
I don't.
Sublime. I'm gonna try Sublime out.
Yeah.
They have a repo just for OpenSUSE, or they have a repo which includes
Yeah.
OpenSUSE.
They support Linux completely, like
Yeah.
no matter the distro. They support
Yeah.
and they support it. So they support it with traditional packages, not
Mhm.
flat packs or anything.
Yeah.
Which I would prefer for them to have a flat pack just in general because it makes it easier for people to get started. But they do support traditional packages, which is really nice because
Yeah.
as far as performance goes, is really good. Sublime is ridiculous in how fast it is. And I have switched and tried other things in Atom and VS Code, and they are basically clones of Sublime. And then I thought, well, why am I using a clone if it's not, it's heavier and takes longer to do certain things, and the things that it offers on top of it is just not worth it because I don't care about a viewer. You know, I'm okay with doing this thing called refresh in my browser. It's okay, that's fine. I can do that.
Yeah.
So I don't see a reason. It's the same kind of thing. Sublime has the magnetic pull for me, and maybe that's just a thing that text editors do. They just
Yeah,
have that.
probably.
Like as soon as you find one, it fits your vibe. You've gone through the pain of learning how it works and everything. Maybe that's just what it is. There's just too
Yeah.
much
Yeah, probably.
gravity.
There is a Twitch streamer who's a really good programmer. He's about my age. He might be even a little older who uses Sublime text editor. And so I've seen him code a lot. And in fact, he was the reason why I tried it because I used it while I was switching over from VimScript to Lua. Because it took me a while to kind of figure out the whole Lua thing. Because I'm sorry, there's not many programming languages I hate more than Java or Lua. And Lua because it's got a one index instead of a zero index. It's
Mm.
annoying. That's one of my pet peeves. I don't know any other programming language that is a one based index. Like that's crazy to me.
I used Sublime Text for about 8 years. I really liked it. Really liked it.
So
My biggest complaint with it was that it wasn't keeping up with modern languages and frameworks.
Oh,
Uh, and unfortunately, I had to switch over to VS Code. But you know what? Now I like it a lot better than I did Sublime, and the reason
Blasphemy.
is because I've been able to create workflows and with a minimal amount of effort. Instead of having to check my work in at the end of the day with having to type all this stuff, all I have to do is just click one button, type my description, and it's done.
Hmm.
That's it. Instead of having to say, add this, commit this, and push it.
I mean, you can do that in Sublime
I
too,
think,
but you just have to build
yeah,
snippets
Well,
and
well,
stuff.
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I know that. I'm just saying though, but their add-on structure is supported by so many developers.
Yeah,
There's literally
it has its own.
tens of thousands
Yeah.
of tools out there.
so
The only
we have a
downside of
heretic
Sublime is
here.
that it's losing the plugins to VS Code. Yeah.
Right.
We have a heretic here.
what,
No, I'm just playing.
what do you mean it's losing plugins?
The momentum. So like
Oh.
when it comes to anything, doesn't matter. Like it's software or OS or whatever. It's all about momentum. If people don't use it or
Yeah.
people find something else that gets more hype, like why on earth? Let's just put it out there. Why does Arch get so much hype? Does it deserve it? No, not at all. Is it kind of cool for some people? Absolutely. There's a lot of value to it. It's great for some people who want to force themselves through pain. Then great. But why is it? Because it became a meme because it was fun to make jokes about how great it is, even though it was originally done as a thing of saying, hey, it's so good that you will have pain, but after the pain, it's great. Like it wasn't because it's like this is a great distro. They always made a joke about it being it's a great distro after you're done with your pain. And
Yeah.
now it's at a point where people who are brand new to the platform see videos talking about Arch and how great it is, and then they aren't warned that it's not made for everybody, and in fact it's made for mostly no one. Like if you take a percentage of how many people who want to use it versus how many people should use it, it's very different.
And I use it.
Then you have like, because most people who use Arch based distros are using Arch based distros, they're not using Arch. They're using Kashi or Garuda or Endeavor or even Manjaro or whatever. They're using something that's based on Arch or SteamOS even, and they're
distros.
but the more important part is that they always say something like, Arch is great, and then they say, and I'm using this. Like that's not Arch. You didn't go through the pain. So the joke, like it's just funny because like the momentum is what really powers this kind of thing. And that applies to Sublime because Sublime had the momentum. Back in like, I don't know, 10 years ago, there was TextMate, and then there was like the basic stuff like Notepad++, and there was no winner. There was Emacs and Vim, and Emacs and Vim are nice if you like it, enjoy, but they will never, ever, 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 ever be mainstream things. That's just not going to happen because their barrier is way too high to be mainstream. Mainstream requires it to be an easy on-ramp, at least to a degree, even for developers, because it's not like developers, just because they're a developer means that they want the pain. That's not how it works. You want to get into the process of building it and then, build the thing you want. It's not about like, oh, I'm going to spend days or a week in pain in order to get my editor to work. No.
Dude,
So
I'm totally with you. I don't think they should be mainstream though. That's my
no, that's what I'm saying. Arch has become mainstream. It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
No,
It doesn't want to be, but it
yeah.
is one.
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons why that became mainstream. But I will say something. I used Arch for 10 years, but I don't use Arch anymore. I left it about 3 years ago. I will say this about Arch. It's easier to get things up and running quickly. Like if you want like your tiling window managers or something like this, it is so much easier than Fedora or Ubuntu or
How?
Debian. It is so much easier.
How is it easier?
Again,
it's literally like because you don't have to like configure every little thing to make it work. It works out of the box. Like
Arch doesn't exist.
If
There
you
is no
install like
out-of-the-box of Arch.
OpenBox, let's just go with it. So if you install OpenBox and everything that's related to make OpenBox work, in Arch, it's just as simple as installing OpenBox and basically creating a file and user share X sessions, and that's it. Okay. Once you do that, everything works out of the box. There's no monkeying around. I guarantee you, if you do the same thing on Fedora, you're going to have to make some adjustments. And
I hate to have to say it again, but you knocked on Fedora and Ubuntu, and you totally left OpenSUSE out of it again. I don't know what the problem is. Why you can't include OpenSUSE in your disparaging remarks.
How dare you?
Actually,
OpenSUSE
OpenSUSE is in that. It is in that a little bit.
You didn't
but
say
not, but pretty much if you're looking at Solus, if you're looking at like pretty much all the major distros except for Gentoo and Arch. They're the easiest to get up and running. Now, Gentoo, it takes forever because you're compiling all these binaries from source and a bunch of other crap. But it's easy to get up and running out of the box.
I think you're using the term easy way different than most people do. It's easy for you because you know how to do it. Like imagine
but I didn't
someone
have to like when
you
I did it.
You literally said install OpenBox and then do the configurations and then it works out of the box. People who expect something to work out of the box won't know what configurations to do, won't know that there
Oh
is a
no,
thing called
right.
OpenBox, won't even know that how to get Arch installed in the first place. Because if you go to the Arch website and you go to the installation process, it doesn't even tell you that Arch install exists. Like their install guide is the old guide and it doesn't even say, hey, Arch install is a thing you can use now. They don't even tell you that.
Yeah.
So beginners, the term the term easy is used way too loosely in the Linux world because like that should only be ever used for people who are beginners. Like if you you could say simple. I think it's a simple process if you know how to do the technical
Okay, all
stuff.
right. I'll
But
accept that. I'll accept
yeah.
that. Simple. It's a lot more simple to get up and running.
Yeah, I think you could either take it a step further, Michael, and say not just beginners, but the difference between a user and an enthusiast of Linux.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of both, but I
Yeah,
use it in the lazy way. I don't want to
right.
go through the headaches. So, like,
Yeah,
I think
same
what you're
here.
saying is like that. Yeah.
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 Because I'm an
I
enthusiast, but I used to be that person who would do all the technical stuff. And like, I used to actually contribute to Arch
Right.
and all sorts of things. And
yeah.
I'm not that anymore. I don't care anymore. Like, I'm just like, give me a distro. It's got a desktop. I'm good. Whatever.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I have to have like some customization, but I'm pretty lazy about it. Like once I get something I like to stick with it.
Well, I mean, that's what
But
I'm
I'll
saying is
spend
like
a
the problem is that people promote Arch way too high. I don't
yeah.
think Arch. I think Arch has one of the worst package managers in terms of
Oh, I
like
agree with you. Yeah.
it's fast, but beyond that, that's it. It's just fast.
I don't
The
think it's
syntax
like
is so
yeah.
awful.
Mm. I don't think the actual package manager is bad necessarily. What I do think, though, is I think a lot of the maintainers, especially in the AUR, they do a very crappy job maintaining those packages.
I mean, the
Uh,
AUR is a Wild West
I can
anyway.
think of Arco Linux or Garuda Linux. They're the biggest offenders, by the way. So just
Arco is not
throw
a
a little shade.
distro. Arco is not a distro. One, there it's actually been discontinued, but Arco is not a
Yes,
distro
I
for
agree.
using. It's a educational thing. It's not even meant to be used. It's
Yeah,
meant
I
to be
know, but
like
they have their own repos though, and
just fine.
yeah, no, I don't have a problem with it, but the way that Eric DeBoy goes about that is really wrong because what happens is he has like like some GUI app that he includes with like whatever flavor or whatever. And then like 2 weeks later, he completely changes the name of the repo and it's not compatible and it won't update without like updating the keys or refreshing the keys and stuff. It's
I mean, that's fine. I mean, Arco is meant to teach you how to use Arch or how to use a system that's like Arch. It's not meant to be like just
I
use it
agree.
and use it. It's meant to like you have to go through this process to learn how all these things work and all this. Like I think
Mm,
what Arco does is totally fine because that's its purpose is to teach, and that's it. And there's nothing. That's great in my opinion. But I think um, I was just saying like the AUR is a completely wild west. In fact, the Arch
yes.
developers don't tell you specifically do not use the AUR. And when there was like this, there was like it was like a crypto miner. Yeah, it was a crypto miner that was in the AUR, and people were
Oh
like,
yeah, I
"Oh, well,
remember
Arch has
that.
a crypto miner." And when you asked the developers of Arch what to do about it, they said, "Do not use the AUR. Not don't use that app. Do not use the AUR."
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do not understand that why the AUR exists. And that is a funny thing because I could be paraphrasing, I could be getting it from like I could be slightly wrong in my phrasing, but this is what my research many years ago brought up and my memory of that research that the Arch team built the AUR specifically so they would not be annoyed anymore by people submitting packages to their repos and say, hey, you want to put it in, you want to make this available, you can put it here, the user repository. We're going to stick to these are officially maintained, but
Mm,
if you want to make your other thing, then there you go.
mm,
Like it's made as like a band-aid sort of thing. And So and a lot of people talk about how the best thing about Arch is the AUR, which is kind of funny. But
Yeah, that is hilarious to me. I
yeah,
actually, I don't disagree with you at all.
So
But
Vince
I,
says, just for clarification, Arch is not a distro. It is a wiki with the distro attached. So there's
nice.
yeah, yeah.
Actually, I think the
No,
wiki is a little bit also overhyped and oversold, and I feel like
yeah,
I think Arch is overrated, and I think that Arch Wiki is overrated. I don't think that they're bad things. To be clear,
yeah,
the term overrated does not mean that they're bad. Both Arch and the Arch Wiki are good. The problem is people act like the Arch Wiki is the greatest thing ever, and that Arch Linux is the greatest thing ever, and that's why it's overhyped.
yeah. I don't disagree.
SteamOS is
Like,
built on Arch, sort
Yeah,
of.
but it works in no way similar to Arch. Yeah.
yeah,
When someone says like, I'm running Arch because I have SteamOS, like that's no, you're not. You're
no,
running SteamOS that it itself happens to be based on Arch, but the way it functions is so far beyond what Arch was intended to be. Like you're
yeah,
basically,
But
you might as well
I
just
think for
say,
me that Arch is the only distro that works with my brain. Like it really is. And I recognize like I am not a mainstream user. I'm not a typical user. I am in no way and even interested in that audience or even catering to that audience in any way. And like Arch is the only distro that really does what I want the way I
yeah,
want, and I love it, right? And
that's
like
great.
I can appreciate other projects, sure, but like they're all the sort of shortcomings of Arch, I guess my brain just gets around them. I don't really
I mean, yeah,
like they exist, but like they're not really they don't impede my forward progress.
right. But also, it's not even meant to be. My statement is not meant to be like an anti-Arch thing. I think Arch is great. I used to use Arch all the time. I was an Arch user for years.
mm.
I contributed to it. I also helped build a derivative of Arch with Intergos, for those who remember Intergos.
Oh
Uh,
God, the worst installer ever.
how dare that's true though.
Yes,
Um,
it was. It really was.
Cinchi was a mess, but when
Yes,
it worked beautifully. It just
yes,
worked
that's
only
true.
50% of the time. But it was good when it worked. But yes, but everything else beyond everything else a part of Tergos was great, and except for the logistics of why it didn't last, but that's different. That's a longer story. But
Actually, I think I have less problems on Arch because I use vanilla Arch
yeah,
because
because
I
you're doing
don't
it
use a
yourself. Yeah,
derivative. Yeah,
yeah.
Mm.
and
There's nothing wrong with it. I'm
I guess
saying
that
like,
I'm with you on the whole overhype thing, and I think
yeah,
and this is not to impugn their work, but like I think the derivatives are kind of a culprit in that whole thing. Like
Mm.
you have the derivative, especially Manjaro, that breaks when you just say its name. Like someone's machine just crashed when I said that,
Yes,
and
yes.
so, but like you have the
as
derivatives that like kind of give people the impression that it's like a system that's meant to already come
that's funny.
together, and it wasn't really meant for that. Like Vince's description is pretty accurate. It's a set of packages and some like vague instructions on how to put them together. It's like a sort of IKEA type thing where you
It
have
is
some
the IKEA of
instructions
Linux.
and
Yes.
like you have all the pieces and you put it together. And
Although to be fair, the instructions for IKEA are a lot more simpler and they are easier to follow.
yeah, fair enough.
But
But
uh,
at the same
I
time,
get what
like
you're saying.
I think putting Arch together from vanilla Arch is valuable, not just as a learning thing. I don't really think it's even that valuable as a learning thing. It's literally just doing the Arch thing. But like
Mm.
having the sort of input from the bottom up means that when things do go wrong, you know what's in there, and there's value in having that rather than the productized version like an Ubuntu or a Fedora or something that has all these components that other people have chosen to put in a certain way. Makes it harder for in my opinion, harder for the end user to figure that out. Assuming the end
Sure.
user is the type of person who is willing to go and figure that out and not just throw their
Right.
hands up in the sky and say, it just broke, I don't know what to do. And that also is a part of the Arch experience, is there are
Yeah.
people who are using Arch who aren't willing to go to that. And then it kind of like, I feel like to become an Arch user, like a longtime Arch user, you have to be willing to put in that effort. And if you're not, the derivatives sort of cater to you, but at the same time they don't, because the derivatives aren't really Arch. They're just Arch based. They kind of miss the point of why you build a machine from the ground up on Arch. And
I mean, so there's an
so I think
interesting
it's just like a
point
totally
there.
different mindset to use it. And I'm with you that there are too many people showing how great it is without
Yeah.
showing the in between. It's the rest of the effing owl thing, right? Like you
Yeah,
show me
yeah.
the first 2 circles, and then the next frame is the whole owl, and it's like, well, what? Like
Where
that's
was
the
the
second
rest of
step.
it
Just
come
draw
from?
the rest
Yeah.
of the owl. And so people see, cool like Arch Rice setups and like cool window managers or whatever, and all the things people are doing, but it's like that sort of social media influencer thing where you don't see the middle part.
Yeah.
You just see the end result, and you're like, I want to run Arch, and then when you hit the brick wall of learning Arch, they're like,
Mhm.
wait, this isn't at all what that guy did, but it is what he
Yeah.
did. You just didn't see that part.
Yeah, he just didn't record that part, or if he did, he didn't provide it to you.
Right.
But what's funny is that the PewDiePie video is kind of like that exactly. Like he showed all the ricing on Arch and stuff, and everybody, and the amount of comments. So I made that reaction video, which on its own got like 65,000 views,
I was
and
watching it
obviously,
earlier. I didn't finish it.
I mean, my reaction video is long. PewDiePie's video is like 22 minutes, and my reaction video is like an hour.
Yeah.
Like I understand it's huge. Like I get it. And if someone doesn't finish it, it's fine. I even put in like the pinned comment says, I know this is a very long video. I made timestamps for like 48 different chapters. You can jump around and watch it whenever you want. So like I get why. But there's I've had a lot of people tell me that they appreciate my commentary on it, and some people were happy that I pointed out that Arch isn't really for them. He's going through a very strong. He's going through a process where he went through the pain, and he kind of mentions it too. He doesn't really talk about it directly, like fully blown, like warning wise. He just talks about it in like how he had to go through a bunch of like steps. But he doesn't understand all the steps he's going through. He's just going through them, and it's hard to explain. It wouldn't be possible for him to explain like the fact that his his function keys working issue wasn't a Linux thing, and it wasn't even an Arch thing. It's a specific Hyperland problem that with some hardware has that kind of issue, and uh, like that's something he wouldn't know because that's his one experience with Arch was using Hyperland and stuff. So there's different configurations and factors that could go into all this sort of stuff. And anyway, but people get this hype, and I've had people in the comments of that video say that they appreciate that I warned them not to do it, and they're going to use Mint or they're going to use Zorin or whatever. And then I also, in the same video, have just as many people saying how they're excited to play with Arch, and I'm like, I don't want to burst your bubble, but if you want to use Arch and you're aware that there is going to be pain involved, then have fun. Enjoy the Arch experience because the pain is part of the Arch experience. It's just like a lot of people don't acknowledge that part is part of the experience too. And
But I'm gonna push back a little bit. I don't totally disagree with you, but I'm gonna say this. You want to know what made me an Arch user initially was Ubuntu. I could not keep an Ubuntu version running for more than about a month
why is that?
because every time I did something, it would break. The grub menu would break or something would break, and I would have to fix it. It taught me a lot about fixing problems. And then I used Arch. And here's the thing. I had the same build on the same hard drive that went through 3 completely different computers. And the first one had like a Intel CPU and GPU. The second one had a dual graphics card, and the third one was an AMD. And I literally had this for like 5 years. Went through 3 completely different computers. I would basically plugged in my hard drive and figured out how to get it to work and everything. And It's just in the grub menu, you set up no mode set and a bunch of other things. But get it going and then get the NVIDIA to work or get whatever. Anyway, it went through three completely different systems. It never broke on me. And in fact, it was when I bought, I think it was when I bought this computer, right? No, it was this computer right here. A couple of years ago, I finally just I uninstalled it because it was like I'm like, dude, there's like all this crap on my build. I was like, part of me wanted to see if I could, get it onto a fourth computer, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. And then, but like, it never broke ever. The closest it came to breaking is when Pac-Man went from 4.9 to 5.0. That was the closest it came to breaking. It
But
never
also that
broke on me.
system is very specific to you, and you know when anything goes wrong, you can fix it or whatever. And
Right.
it's
Right.
also, I would argue, or not argue it, I would bet is incredibly minimal. Like,
No, no,
like what
not
DE do you use? Did you use on it?
okay. So I used all of them. I used XFCE, Plasma. Uh, I even tried GNOME occasionally. I tried
But the
Deepin. I
build is
tried.
different at that point. Like, what were you using that when you transitioned to the next system?
Oh, okay, yeah. So like usually I was using either XFCE or Plasma. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Um,
I think the key difference is like Ubuntu, Fedora, these others, they're distros that are built together, and they're generally just you're just meant to install apps and use the thing you got and move on, right?
Yes.
yeah,
Whereas
and
Yeah.
you're
if you are
tweaking
the
it
type of person
a
in
lot.
even in the smallest way that you want to go in and sort of change things and screw about
Mhm.
with this thing, then start with the distro that's meant to do that from the beginning with Arch, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you go into Ubuntu or Fedora and you start like changing out components and screwing with it
Yeah.
and it breaks, it's like, well, what'd you expect? Like it
Yeah.
wasn't built, it was built a certain way to be used a certain way. And then you
Yeah.
go in and screw around with it and like it breaks, right? So in my opinion, if you're the type of person, which you seem to be, just like myself, who would rather things be the way they want them to be, then start with a base like Arch and not instead of
Yeah.
trying to. It's easier to build
Debian
out of
also works there
nothing than
too.
it is to tear down and replace.
Yeah.
So you can do it with Fedora, by the way. It is possible to do it with Fedora. It's
Yeah,
just you got to
I
start it. You
agree.
don't start with the regular Fedora. You
Right,
start
right.
with
That's what I'm
a
saying. Is most people
specific.
will
Yeah.
start with
Yeah.
workstation or something and start
Yeah.
taking pieces
Yeah.
out and replacing them, and it's like,
The GNOME is the least friendly of customization of any desktop.
Yes.
Like
Yes,
it
I
does not
agree.
want you to change things.
no one ever
I
talks
And
about how
wish
leaky the
I
ship of
would
PCs
nuke
is.
the
Just so
GNOME
you know.
Foundation off the face of the earth if I could.
well, I mean, they have
But
some
I
good
have
ideas. They
reasons
also
for
have some
this.
bad ones. Yeah.
No,
I like some of their development, but I've gotten into fights with the developers.
I think
So,
GNOME should just do what GNOME wants to do. I'm actually 100% in favor of whatever they do, truly, because it's their expression of what they think a desktop should be. And although it
Sure.
doesn't work for me, I appreciate that they're very opinionated. They
mhm.
clearly they don't want me to be a user, and that's okay. I still appreciate what they're
Yeah,
doing, and I want
I
them
agree.
I want them to continue down that path. That's how I feel
Yeah.
about it. I'm all
Sure.
for I am absolutely 100% in favor of what people do in the open source because it's exciting to watch and see what I like and sample.
Mhm.
It's like going to a buffet. You don't know what it is, but maybe it tastes good. You don't know until you try it.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
a buffet is like just a smorgasbord of like endless mediocre food, but still,
Whoa,
I
whoa,
like where you're going with it.
whoa.
And
I
people
like where you're going with it, though.
sneezing all over the food.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
no,
Enjoy your
no,
exactly.
COVID
let's
shrimp.
let's. There's more than just that. I'm afraid of. Have you heard of flesh-eating bacteria? Yeah, that actually really freaks me out. Anyway,
Yeah.
Is that
It's not
the
good.
reverse of a vegetarian?
it's not vegan,
Sort
for
of.
sure.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I do think that there is a very good point that you said. Like it's breaking because Ubuntu would break because you would do something that would make it break because you wanted to have more control and stuff like that, where Ubuntu is not really meant for that. And I think Adam is right about like that's like if
I
you
don't
are that type of
disagree.
person to just use something that's like Debian or like Arch or whatever.
Mm.
But I just want to say this. There is a thing that you can use in Fedora that has the most confusing name ever, but it's basically how you do it. So if you
Anaconda.
wanted to do the same, I mean, that actually, yeah, I don't know what that name is
Mm.
for either, but still. Um, Actually, I think Anaconda was originally written in Python or something, and that's why they called it that, maybe. I don't
Oh.
know, something like that. But
Oh,
the
really?
reason why people who want to use Arch or have that vibe don't work with Fedora is because they're starting with something that doesn't like to be messed with, and I mean, no, it does not want to be changed, and that's
Yeah.
fine. You know, it's whoever wants to use it, great, nothing against that. But they have they have a spin, not really a spin, but it's like a branch ISO. It's called Fedora Everything. And is the most confusing name ever because it comes with nothing. And I don't know
Oh,
why it's called that. Now, what it's basically is a minimal install, net install type of thing that allows you to do similar to Arch. You build it up from the bottom with this particular branch. And I don't know why it's called everything. It's just I don't agree with it. It's there's a branch inside of the Fedora repos called everything where everything exists. So they called the thing that gives access to let you do everything you want Fedora everything, which is kind of confusing because it imagine you would when I think that it's like, okay, this is an ISO that has everything ready to go no matter what I want. But
mm.
really it's the opposite of that. It should be called Fedora emptiness or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting because I use Fedora and I've never heard of that project. That surprises me actually because I thought I'd heard of all of the Fedora projects. Usually when I install like tiling window managers in Fedora, I install the XFCE version and then
Yeah, and then swap over. Yeah.
install Xorg and everything else. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
actually like Fedora, but I hate this push where they've gutted all of the Xorg stuff out. I don't they just did that with what 42, I think.
I mean, no, not really. I mean, Xorg is still in the repos. It's just,
Yes, you got to install it.
yeah, that's fine
But
because they only
yeah.
do it for the workstation GNOME and the KDE Plasma desktop version. That's the
Oh,
only those are the only two that they do that with. So if you're not going to use those two, it doesn't matter. You know,
oh, okay. Yeah.
but
I
with the Fedora XFCE, you really can't because it doesn't support Wayland very well yet.
no,
Um,
I guess you're
it's
right. Yeah.
yeah.
And
So
then
some of
they
these
have
have
like
X by default. Cinnamon has to.
yeah.
Yeah. i3
Yeah.
has to. Yeah. It's
Huh.
kind of funny they have
Yeah.
an LXQT and an LXDE version of Fedora because it's like, why? Why LXDE still?
Because Raspberry Pi.
Well, because LXQT
I guess
works
so.
with Wayland and LXDE works with X.
No, LXQT works with both.
Well, you're right. I guess technically, yeah.
The reason LXQt exists is because LXDE was such a massive technical debt that the team decided to just switch over to Qt instead of GTK
Hmm.
because they were on GTK2, and switching from GTK2 to GTK3 is a massive undertaking. And now that we
Yeah.
have GTK4, it's even worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I'm gonna hop out. I gotta take a dump. So you guys
Well,
have a wonderful
good to
evening.
know.
Talk to you later.
Thank you, Adam, for being here.
TMI.
And it is actually that time for last call.
It is time.
Yeah. We did start late, so I figured we could go a little late because it all that whatever.
It makes sense. That's my methodology as well. If I start late, it means that the show is not late.
I was having some technical issues where Pipewire decided to stop wanting to wire pipes. So
that would be unfortunate. That is kind of its job.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
we we wouldn't be blaming Wayland, would we? No.
no, I'm not gonna blame. I'm gonna blame
I'm
me.
just playing.
I
I'm
probably
playing.
did something wrong and it just wouldn't work.
Yeah. It's
So anyway, Michael, thanks for being here. I do appreciate you popping in, and you do have some podcasts, I believe. You do some
I do
podcasting.
things.
Yeah, you do things on the interwebs.
I do podcasting. I do This Week in Linux, which is This Week in Linux is I can say this without any level of like hesitation. This Week in Linux is the greatest podcast ever created on this topic of Linux in the history of mankind that I host by myself.
Perfect.
I'll check it out.
But I
don't know
also
if I've
have a
seen it.
Destination Linux, which is the greatest podcast ever in the history of mankind that's based on Linux that I host with more than just me, including Ryan and Joe. There's a qualifier there that makes it instantly true, but you know, whatever. Still, it's good. They're both good. I'm a little biased, but yeah, they're
Okay.
This Week in Linux is a news show. Destination Linux is a conversational podcast, and I also make YouTube videos about Linux. If you'd be shocked, I'm not sure you're shocked about that, but I talk about Linux, everything basically, technical stuff, random fun things. Yeah. So I have a Cosmic Desktop video that came out yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And it's actually really good for considering it's an Alpha 7. It's really good, like because it's still in alpha and it's got tons of potential. So I'm excited to play with that in terms of like tiling in a daily driver whenever it comes out.
So this is just an aside. I know this is last call, not the place for this, but I have to interject. I actually think Cosmic, as it sits today, is more ready than GNOME for me.
Yeah, I can see that. There are certain things that it can do that GNOME can't, and yeah, vice versa, really. But I agree. But anyway, tuxdigital.com is my website for all things related to Linux, and in fact, that's where the Linux Saloon is. If you didn't know, it's connected to
It
Tux
is.
Digital.
Yep,
So
sure is.
yeah.
Hey, can I say one quick thing before we cut out? I just wanted to say that Michael is so
Beautiful.
much all over YouTube that he's starting to look like a network chunk. Look at him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hope so.
I thought you were
got
He's
gonna
got a lot more subscribers than I do,
for you, man.
but
I thought you were gonna say beautiful, but
No.
I'm a very handsome man, and also very
You
humble.
are handsome, but I just don't know other men are handsome. Wait a minute. I think I just did.
he's a handsome boy.
Yeah, but it's funny because I had a lot of people talk about how they see my videos now randomly. I was talking to a friend. He said like my video just popped up and showed my face to him, and he's like, "What?" And the friend from high school actually, and he called me to tell me that he got a random suggestion of me, but it actually is growing ridiculously fast now. I went from like I have doubled my my subscriber count in the past 2 months. Like it was 30 something thousand sometime in February or March or something, and now it's 63,000. So it's pretty much doubled in 2 months, and hopefully it continues to double every 2 months, because that'd be nice.
That would be nice. They could say, I know somebody famous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't necessarily want to be famous, but I do want I want the channel to be successful, which is kind of like I guess a double-edged sword and a contradiction, maybe. I don't know.
An oxymoron.
Yeah, that too.
He's an oxendomoron. Okay. Well, cool. Now, Dale, you have you do some videos on the YouTubes and the Twitch. Got anything new lately that you've done, released?
No, I really haven't had a lot of time this week with work and honey-do lists, so
Yep,
not a whole lot of new going on.
I got you.
I am going to do probably tomorrow. I'm going to do some kind of a video with all the threads and forums that I'm seeing where people are saying, how about Linux instead of Windows 11? I'm going to do a video that kind of introduces Linux to new users.
Cool.
Nice.
Well, I think as long as you're having fun with it,
And a side project that I've been wasting time on this week is a little bit of game development with Godot
Oh,
for
that's
a
cool.
first-person tennis game.
Nice.
Can you incorporate the Wiimote just for fun?
I'll see what I can do.
That's a no. You don't want to break your screen. I get it because you.
That's what the tie's for. The wrist tie.
Oh,
The
that's right.
strap.
That's right.
Yeah,
I know.
but how many people actually do that? You know,
I
I actually always use the wrist strap because when we first got it, this was I don't know how long ago the Wii was, but my brother and I were roommates at the time, so it was a long time. And he didn't have the strap on and threw it at the TV. Luckily, he missed the TV, but he threw it. I was like, dude, that's what the wrist strap is for. So at that point, we both always had the strap on. And so yeah, it does work. Although I did see some videos on like the sad, like the there's like a tech fail or something video where someone had the strap on and it broke off from the Wii anyway. So it just still happened anyway. So like it's not a foolproof system.
anything man-made is subject to fail.
True.
Sir.
it's very true.
Which is basically it. Everything's subject to fail, I suppose. Yeah.
But not that big oak tree. That'll live forever, right?
I mean, eventually
Maybe.
it'll be imploded and engulfed by the sun.
Probably.
Or lightning will strike it. And anyway, Shaston,
That could be,
you also do some videos from time to time. Is that a
Yeah.
that's still
go ahead.
happening? Is that still a
Yes,
thing?
absolutely. Yeah, I've been this week has been kind of busy because I've been doing a lot of programming, but yeah, I want to get a couple of pithy videos out there, and I I don't know. So I think I'm going to do a video on Aurora DX, like how to get that set up and
Nice.
how to set up Just and UJust, which is pretty crazy stuff. Then,
It seems like you just do it.
well, kind of, but you have to know what it is first.
That's true. That's true.
I didn't know what Just was. I had no idea how to create a Just file. So,
I still don't know what it is, so I'm looking for your video.
yeah. Yeah, it'll be out probably. I'm hoping this week. I've been busy with some programming stuff and some research. I actually might actually be making a text editor, and so I think it'll be a video about that.
Nice.
Will you be using your
Because
text editor to create your text editor?
Yeah, I'm gonna create one out of Zig and Elixir, so it never dies. So like if a plugin fails, that plugin fails. That's it.
I can see that. Mike, I don't know if you have.
And
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Finish it.
and the fact that it's written in Zig would be that it's kind of like a stiff middle finger to some of those Rust developers that I don't like.
Well,
I think Rust is great.
not everything is for everybody.
No, it's not. There's so many things wrong with it. It's not even funny.
I mean, there's something wrong with every language, really.
No,
language
I
is
don't.
Uh,
Yeah, no. it's
Commodore Basic
not.
version 2 is infallible.
Yeah,
Fair enough. Good point.
yeah.
I stand corrected.
Actually, it's not. It's terrible.
No, actually, I don't dislike Rust, but I think kind of like you said, Arch is overhyped. I think Rust is overhyped.
Yeah, Rust is overhyped. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I think any language that has the hype that, I think any programming language getting hype is kind of hilarious. Like
Yes.
most people who hear about it don't care in any way whatsoever.
Yeah,
Like,
they wouldn't know the difference anyway between C or Zig or Rust or anything else.
I'm
Or
not gonna lie.
Golang.
I was getting early on. This is many years ago. There's a game called Rust and a language called Rust, and I was getting
Yeah.
confused in conversation, like listening to podcasts years ago. Like, are they talking about the game or the language? I can't really tell.
Yeah,
and
there
also
was
because
like that
they're not
2
specific enough
months.
sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was that
Especially when they're
2 month
talking about how the
window.
Rust game was buggy. And then you're like, what are you talking about? Like, which one is which?
You're right.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was fun. So,
Yeah.
I want to just going to close this thing out here. Mike, I don't know if you had anything you want to share. I know you were doing some Cobalt some time ago. Are you still working on any Cobalt?
Not late.
Not lately?
I have a customer that I do maintenance fixes for on it, but yeah, I mostly code. Most of my application developments in Ruby and Rails,
Oh, okay.
doing apps, and but I'm working some side projects I'm working on. I wrote a. I don't know why I did this, but my BBS that I set up,
hmm
it supports Python, okay, as to build extensions for it. And I wrote an extension for it, and now I remember why I hate Python. Uh, but other than that, you can go on the BBS. You can actually track satellites on my BBS
Oh,
Oh wow.
that's cool.
and see their position from your latitude and longitude. And then I've been working on my we don't need another, but I did it anyway. Markdown viewer editor. You know, I wanted my whole reason for doing this is I got very frustrated because there's not just a default viewer for Markdown. They either throw you into a text editor by default, or they throw you in. You have to download it and say, "Yeah, I want to make this my default viewer." So I write in Flutter also for mobile apps, and so I said, you know what? I'm going to write a Linux app in Flutter that is a viewer, but you can just click a button and it puts the file in edit mode, and you can start editing it if you want to. But and it's probably 80% complete. I'm researching building a Flatpak right now, so that's pretty interesting stuff, by the way.
That's neat.
Nice.
So, man, it seems like you have many talents here. Do you ever have a problem where you get different languages confused in your head, and you mean to do Python, but you end up doing something else?
All the time, all the time,
Yeah.
all the time.
Mhm.
But the
Especially
thing
the
is
syntax differences.
yeah, once you get used to the logic piece of all of it, the syntax is just, you can go look that up.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, sometimes the syntax is where you mix them up because you use a
Right,
semicolon where you're supposed to use a
right,
period, or you're supposed to use
exactly.
a regular colon, and it's just like, oh yeah, I'm in this language right now. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that drives me crazy in Python is they use indentation to
Yeah,
make,
white space. Yeah.
yeah, they use white spaces
For
to denote this is
scoping.
a
Yeah.
function or a method. Oh God, it drives me crazy.
You should
Yeah.
try out the language white space. It's amazing.
I've seen that. I've seen it. Yeah, it's hilarious.
It's the greatest
Yeah.
thing that is also insanity.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, the thing about Python that I hate the most is their implementation of OOP.
I agree. It's terrible.
It's the worst.
I mean, it's
Well, I
like,
hate OOP in general, but hey.
you know what it's like? It's like they read the first 10 pages of Sandy Metz's book and then threw it out and said, "Oh, I understand it now. I understand OOP now." So
Well, that's why they call it oops.
Exactly.
it's just, and by the way, anybody who's never read Sandy Metz's book on object-oriented programming, it's probably one of the best ones out there to make you if you don't understand it and you want to, it really makes it clear how it's supposed to work, not how people always implement it. Anyway, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty
I'm
delightful.
not
So,
I'm not a big.
what do you say?
Go ahead. It's not important.
I just want to close it out. Jinda, do you have anything going on here besides, designing cranes or whatever to lift?
Yeah,
Windows?
no, unfortunately, work is pretty much all I was doing. And I think I mentioned before the show, I tried to play with my RC monster truck, and that was it.
Oh, that you did, and then that was pretty exciting what happened. But maybe probably shouldn't talk about that. So-
No.
I
Anyway.
want those Matchbox cars behind you. That's what I want.
Yeah, no
He
kidding.
likes my Hot Wheels cars back there.
They're
Oh, the
hot.
Hot Wheels, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud. Although I wasn't part of the podcast this last week because I was traveling for work. Wendy, Matt. Wait, no, not Matt, because Matt was out of town too. So it's Wendy, Bill, and Neil. I think Neil was on it. Where
it was Neil and Bill.
Yeah, and they had a ball without me, and so I'm a little sad I missed it because I haven't been on anything with Neil, but that's the way it goes sometimes. I also have a website called cubiclink.com. I write things, and
Oh, really?
yeah, sometimes. Actually, you know, I
I
found
write
out
things.
I was using
You still call them noodlings?
noodlings are when I talk, so I noodle, and then
Oh, okay.
blathering is when I write. So
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I mixed up the differences. My bad.
it's all right. They're basically the same meaning.
Gotcha.
Um,
I like how you have a specific way of saying, like, describing, like, like my writing and my talking. They're both nonsense, but they're different kinds of.
right. And if you ever look up like what noodling is, like when you like fishing for catfish, it'll make you laugh.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, that's about when he talks. So,
Isn't that when you let them bite you?
yeah, it's ridiculous and it's a bad idea. So that's why I say it's a noodling. Anyway,
I did not know that was the foundation for why you call it.
Yeah.
Now I love it. I kind of want to take it.
yeah. So anyway, I haven't done any noodlings in a while. I probably should do that again, but life is pretty busy right now. Anyway, and every time I have problems with things, I like to take my notes and then I just publish them on cubiclink.com. And so they're mostly my nonsense, what I battled through to try and figure something out. But anyway, you can check that out. So Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network. Check out market shows at tuxdigital.com. And thank you all for your support. However you do it, being a part of the conversation, both the Zoom meeting and the YouTube stream, as well as for everyone watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yous.